marketing says that it's safe for users 12 and older, and that's clearly false.
Kansas Attorney General Chris Kobach sues Snapchat, claiming it's dangerous for kids. Snapchat firing back this morning. What the company and parents are saying now and how the lawsuit could impact how kids use the app here in Kansas.
Plus, cuts to SNAP benefits in Kansas. The USDA following through on its promise to strip millions from the program after the governor refused to hand over people's personal data. She's responding this morning. And
people have a voice, and they're clearly prepared to use it.
It's the last stop on a statewide tour for Kansas Democrats, but they still have a long road ahead. How they plan to grab more power in next year's election. But first, Snapchat under fire after the Kansas Attorney General slams the app for hurting kids. You're taking a look inside Kansas politics. Welcome in. I'm Rebecca Chung.
And I'm Rob Hughes. We're glad you're here. The Attorney General's office announced a lawsuit against parent company Snap this week. It claims the app's engaged in false marketing. Inside
Kansas politics reporter Jacob Kaufman spoke with the Attorney General and a parent about their concerns with the app.
I previously told him that he should wait until he's a little older, more mature, around 15, maybe we'd have a conversation.
The Kansas Attorney General's office is unfiltered against the creators of Snapchat. The popular social media app markets itself for people ages 12 and up, but Chris Kobach believes that the app needs to market to older audiences, saying that the app has caused harm to younger users in Kansas and filed a lawsuit against the company in Washington County, Kansas. Working for you, I spoke to one parent about her thoughts on the app.
I just feel like he's not, at the age of maturity to not go into those different reels, and there's people that add you that you don't even know that start sending pictures, and I've had it happen to me, and I just don't want that to happen to him.
Kobach believes the app is anything but safe for children, as it's a place where you can find explicit videos, drug advertisement, and sexual solicitation. While Snap is free to have its app and market to Kansas consumers, Kobach says its marketing violates the Kansas Consumer Protection Act.
People have to be told the truth when they purchase a product, or in this case, when they accept an app or tell their child, yes, you can go ahead and have that app on your phone. So that's really what it's about. It's about honesty.
In a statement the parent company sent 27 News, they say the developers are committed to creating a safe and enjoyable environment for our community and have incorporated privacy and safety features into our platform from the very beginning. While the app admits bad actors can circumvent features, it's constantly working to keep the app safe.
All right, so what's next? I want to bring in political science professor and author Michael Smith. Professor Smith, thanks so much for being with us. Now, where do you see things going from here?
Well, this lawsuit could go somewhere. Last year that 13 states and the District of Columbia had a lawsuit against TikTok, alleging that its algorithms were designed to be addictive, and they knew that. And documents that came out revealed that it could be addictive in as few as 35 seconds. And those states had some success, particularly in getting Snapchat to reveal data they didn't want to share. Now, Kobach's is a little bit different. It has to do more with, to the extent that they filter the material on there, because he's alleging there's obscene material on there and so on and so forth, which there undoubtedly is. But in the case of the TikTok lawsuit, the focus was on what they were doing, the company that owned TikTok. With Snapchat, it's more about they're not filtering enough. So it's a little bit different lawsuit. But suing social media companies over the impact that they have on youth is something that has happened before.
All right, so it's something that we have seen then in other states. And how does Kansas compare to that?
Kansas did not join the TikTok lawsuit. Now, Derek Schmidt would have been Attorney General at that time. I'm a little surprised Kansas didn't. It was bipartisan, which is a word we don't hear much these days, but it was. The courts were pretty willing to listen to the state's arguments against TikTok. But again, this lawsuit's a little different because from what I've read so far, it has to do more with to what extent is it their obligation to filter content and restrict who can join, as opposed to the company knowingly creating algorithms to get people addicted.
Well, what about the impact this could have if the Attorney General wins the lawsuit? Because, of course, Snapchat had brought up the point that they already have safeguards in place. So is it likely you see him winning?
I don't know. I think if it were similar to the TikTok one, then he would just cite that as precedent because the states were pretty successful. But because this one is a little different, it may have a different outcome. I thought it was interesting he filed it in, I think, Washington County. Rural Kansas is a long way from social media headquarters. And it could be they get a different jury if it in fact is tried there. That could affect the outcome as well.
And is this a valid concern about children's mental health, or is this also tapping into voter anxiety when it comes to social media harm? We already heard one woman talk about her child's use of social media like Snapchat. And how does this lawsuit seem to potentially impact what we could see play out in next year's election?
It is a valid concern. It also is a vote getter. It's both at the same time, Rebecca. The TikTok lawsuit produced plenty of evidence from expert witnesses and even damningly from the company itself, showing that not only is the product addictive, they know it's addictive and it's written to be addictive. But at the same time, it is a proven hot button, especially with parents, and it's a vote getter. So it's some of both.
All right, Michael, thank you so much. Millions of dollars cut from SNAP in Kansas. How could this impact your benefits and what the governor is saying? That's up next. Plus.
Yeah, I think it's an attempt to silence voters.
As Kansas Democrats wrap up their statewide tour, another fight for power is brewing at the State House. How it could impact next year's election. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Busy parents have a lot to remember. You have to remember your kids don't eat crusts, pack healthy snacks, and leave the house on time. But you don't have to worry about the shades. They'll close themselves. Request a free consultation today.
Congratulations to this month's Everything Woman honoree, Tina Dos Santos Jensen, an acute care registered nurse making her mark at work, in the home, and on social media.
Everything Woman, sponsored by Sharp Honda, Topeka ER and Hospital, and Washburn University.
Ayo's Tasty Pralines, bringing the South to your mouth.
Now at Hy-Vee.
Visit AyoNolaPralineCandy.com to see where to catch your praline today.
What started out as what we thought was going to be a standard mainline sewer replacement ended up becoming much more complex than we ever thought it would. It was all taken care of by Brian of A2P Plumbing within a 3-day period, which is, to me, absolutely astonishing, given the amount of work that he had to do. He explained everything to us in a way that we could understand. A2B Plumbing has done amazing work for us, and I feel very confident that that will continue in the future. There's no other plumbing company that we would call.
I love how you're always thinking ahead.
Well, they don't call me Prepared Pat for nothing.
Guess that makes you forward-thinking Fiona.
Gotta protect your dreams.
Life's better when you're under our roof.
And that would be? Relieved Rudy?
Save up to 23% by bundling your home and auto with us.
Ho, ho, ho! Santa here, calling all vendors. Holiday Fling Topeka jingles into town December 13th and 14th at the Stormont Vale Event Center, and booths are going faster than reindeer on Christmas Eve. Secure your spot today at holidayflingtopeka.com.
For news on the go, download the 27 News mobile app.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. Governor Laura Kelly is now pushing back against the USDA over its decision to strip millions from Kansas in SNAP funding.
Now, in a court filing, the governor says her team met with the USDA to find out why it rejected her corrective action plan. The agency said it wanted personal data of 700,000 Kansans by the end of the month, and Kelly said they would be willing to work with that if the USDA promised to not give the information to other agencies or entities to be used for civil or criminal law enforcement activity. Now, the governor claims the USDA denied that request.
She says the two sides are at an impasse while she appeals the USDA's decision in court. That appeal stops the department from taking money from Kansas while a judge hears arguments.
Bringing back Michael Smith now. And Michael, this is something that Kansas Attorney General Chris Kobach and Speaker Dan Hawkins have weighed in on, calling on the governor to release that information. Speaker Hawkins even at one point calling that a cover-up and accusing her of trying to protect people that are getting these SNAP benefits illegally. But the governor at the time called it a political move. So could that be the case? And what do you think about what she's saying now, that sort of trade-off that she tried to negotiate with the USDA?
I think that what's happening here is that on one side, represented by the governor, they're very apprehensive that that data will be misused for things that have nothing to do with SNAP benefits, immigration enforcement, or who knows what. And that offer that she made that you mentioned is that it would be siloed and only be used in connection with SNAP, and then she would provide the data. On the other side, of course, there's this argument about fraud. We want to catch maybe people filing for benefits twice or getting benefits for which they're not qualified and what have you. I will tell you that the research on public welfare programs, means-tested public welfare programs, when there is benefit fraud, the major benefit fraud is typically by providers. So for example, with Medicaid, there's a fair amount of fraud, and it's almost always by the doctors and hospitals, not the recipients. And so when people are getting SNAP benefits they're not eligible for, we're talking $50 here, $25 there. We're not talking about the big money. When you go into the means-tested programs, the big money is the providers. And I've never heard an argument that grocery stores are engaged in wide-scale fraud with regards to SNAP, and this data wouldn't catch them doing that anyway.
And of course, Professor, thousands of families rely on these SNAP benefits. You imagine them just sitting, watching this play out, wondering what's going to happen. How do you expect it to play out?
That's a good question. It will be decided by the courts, like so many things are. I don't have a crystal ball. I kind of laid out the two arguments on this, but I do know that there are some real issues about using data for other purposes than that for which it was intended. Let's say you use SNAP data for immigration enforcement. That's a little dodgy, and that creates a lot of problems, and you'll just have to go back and look at the legislation that set up the program in the first place to see what's legal. But there are some major legal issues if the data was collected for purpose A and then you turn around to use it for purpose B.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Professor. Well, after the break, a look at the fight for power in Kansas. Which party could come out on top in next year's election as calls for redistricting rise?
And later on, Kansas lawmakers run back their sports betting plan. What changes they say need to be made as a deal with the Chiefs and Royals hangs in the balance. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Attention women veterans. Do you want free help applying for VA healthcare and veterans benefits you earned? The Kansas Office of Veteran Services has women representatives on site ready to assist you. Help is just a click away. Contact the Kansas Office of Veteran Services.
Welcome to Certified Fireplace and Chimney. We're more than just your fireplace specialists. We can give your space a whole new look. Give us a call or come in and let's discuss your next project.
When a big truck made an illegal U-turn, the inevitable crash caused Melissa to suffer devastating injuries to her face.
Then, to make things worse, the shady trucking company closed up shop and ran.
There's no way I could have made it through it without Devon James.
Melissa, we knew that you were wronged and deserved justice.
You guys were amazing, and the money you got me was life-changing.
You deserved it, and it was our honor to help. Call us at Devon James and find out what we can win for you.
Grace Med Health Clinic is your home for complete compassionate care. From medical visits to vision screenings, dental care, behavioral health support, and a fully equipped pharmacy, we're here to meet all your health needs. Our dedicated team of providers and staff work together to make every visit welcoming and stress-free. Because at Grace Med, you're not just a patient, you're part of our family. Call 785-861-8800 to schedule your appointment. Grace Med Health Clinic, compassionate care for all.
Hi, I'm Brian McDonald with Floyd Place Wine and Spirits, and today we're going to make a blueberry lemon drop martini. For all these ingredients and more, come see us at Floyd Place Wine and Spirits, located just off of 10th and Gage, Topeka's most trusted liquor store.
Attention women veterans. Do you want free help applying for VA healthcare and veterans benefits you earned? The Kansas Office of Veteran Services has women representatives on site ready to assist you. Help is just a click away. Contact the Kansas Office of Veteran Services.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. It is the fight for control in Kansas. Democrats finished up their Fight Back tour. They're hoping to rack up votes and pick up more seats in next year's election. Inside Kansas Politics Capitol Bureau reporter Braden Day shares what lawmakers and voters are saying after the tour.
Right now, Kansas Republicans dominate with an even stronger majority since last election. However, Democrats I spoke with tonight tell me they're optimistic that could change. From Hays to Dodge City to Kansas City, Kansas House Democrats have been on the move for their Fight Back tour. They've been speaking with Kansans.
I have come to a few of these events already all around the state.
And rallying voters ahead of next year's midterm election. Tonight was their final stop at Lenexa.
It's one of those issues where we are looking to hear from voters and Kansans rather than telling voters what to care about ahead of the next election.
We spoke with a Kansas voter who told us about some of the issues that are top of mind heading into next year's election.
We're worried about access to health care, continued concern about reproductive rights, immigration rights. People really need to be able to feel economically secure, and I don't think they do right now.
Governor Laura Kelly was at tonight's event. She tells us she recognizes that voters are concerned, but believes the Fight Back tour helps people feel like their voices are being heard.
I think people all across the country, but particularly here in Kansas, are very concerned about the direction our country is going in. There's real concern, but there's also recognition that people have a voice and they're clearly prepared to use it.
Kansas Democrats were able to visit 14 cities across Kansas this summer, and the tour started back in May. Now, as for whether or not this will pay off during next year's election, we'll have to wait and see. The Democrats' goal is to break the Republican supermajority, and to do that, they'll need to pick up 5 seats in the House and 5 seats in the Senate. Reporting live from the Capitol, I'm Braden Day.
Well, the fight for power does not stop at the State House. Republicans are trying to gain congressional seats, and that starts with redistricting. Well, sending it now to my co-host Rebecca Chung and Professor Michael Smith to break things down.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, calls to redistrict Kansas next year are rising. It's becoming more likely that this could happen. It's not just speculation. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are talking about it, and this could also be a difficult task for Republicans. But it all comes down to what that map looks like. Michael, what we're seeing right now is what Kansas did when they last did redistricting. This is what the map looked like. What could happen next year if we see Kansas redistrict?
Well, the goal by the Republican legislature would be to produce a 4-0 map, 4 Republican districts, 0 Democrat. Currently, Kansas is 3-1, and so that one district is the 3rd district around Kansas City. It's in green on the map. It's represented by Congresswoman Sharice Davids. And the center of the map, population-wise, is Johnson County. It's the most populous county in the state. And it was already redistricted in 22, removing northern Wyandotte County and adding Franklin, Anderson, and Miami counties into the district, which you would think would make it more Republican. But Johnson County has become Congresswoman Davids' base, and Johnson County alone can produce a comfortable margin of votes. She actually won the next election after that redistricting by the same margin she had won before. So to really change this map, to get rid of that Democratic district, it's going to have to be kind of funny shaped. Because the issue is that the most Democratic precincts in the 3rd over here are in the interior of the district, like along the Missouri border and the Wyandotte County border. They're not at the edge. Like moving these counties won't do a thing because they're already Republican. Even western Johnson County is not going to get the job done because those are Republicans. What you would want to do is somehow gerrymander around in here and come down into the heart of Johnson County, the older suburbs that are voting more Democratic, scoop those out, kind of like the way Lawrence was scooped out last time and put in the big first, and move those into a Republican district. It would be a very strange shaped district. It would be a bit like the new Missouri tentative map that splits the city of Kansas City into 3 districts. It wouldn't be neat. It wouldn't be county by county because you've got to get into the heart of Johnson County where there are more and more Democrats these days and move them into a Republican district for this to work.
And a big question here as well, why Sharice Davids' district? We've seen Republicans target that district over and over again. What's so particular about that district is why they're targeting it?
I think it's just numbers. I don't think it's anything about Congresswoman Davids herself other than that she is a Democrat. It's simply something that mathematically it is possible. Now again, even these districts have some pretty goofy shapes, but you really would have some funny shapes. But it is mathematically possible because the state's so heavily Republican if you cut up Johnson County. I don't think it's personal. I think it's the one Democratic district, so you go after it.
And even after that last round of redistricting, they still weren't able to get Sharice Davids out of her seat. It's been, countless times where they've been unsuccessful in doing that. Could this new way in which they're looking at possibly redrawing the map, could that shift things and make them successful in gaining that seat next year?
It is possible. As I say, if you start splitting up Johnson County and putting pieces of it in other districts, you can draw Republican districts, but there are some problems. One is that the political powers that be in the wealthiest and most populous county in the state do not want Johnson County split up into multiple districts. The Overland Park Chamber of Commerce has already come out against it. Another issue, though, is the rural voters. Rural voters may not want to be merged in with urban or suburban areas because it can diminish the role of rural representation. Because if you got a piece of Johnson County in your district, the representative from Congress is going to have to spend a lot of time in Johnson County. And then what happens to rural Kansas?
So I can imagine some voters possibly upset or frustrated with how that map could be redrawn.
Well, that's right. Kansas has a very simple process. The maps just go through the state legislature. There's no bipartisan or nonpartisan redistricting commission. There's nothing like that. It's just passed as regular legislation. Now, the governor would certainly veto this, assuming it's done while she's still in office. It's a given. She would veto it. So now you got to bring in that supermajority, and that means Johnson County Republicans, you would need them. You'd need their votes. And they would have to vote to break up their county. That is not going to go over well in Johnson County.
All right, Michael, thank you so much. When we come back, sports betting is on the table for Kansas lawmakers. Could it be back to the drawing board? An update on that after the break. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
When you secure your firearms, you create the time and space to confront a suicide crisis. No matter when or how you served, we all face our own monsters. We are veterans, warriors, survivors. Keep it secure.
If you know an outstanding student athlete who deserves to be recognized, nominate them for Scholar Athlete of the Week at KSNT.com. Sponsored by Kansas 811 and Briggs Auto Group.
Elevate your car buying experience here at Flint Hills Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Manhattan. I'm Kyle Eck, owner and CEO.
And I'm Shane Summers, general manager.
0, 0, 0. Drive into fall event. 0% for 60 months on Jeep Grand Cherokee L and 0% for 60 months on Ram Light Duty Half-Ton.
Shop local and save big at Flint Hills Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Manhattan.
So come in or visit us at fhcdjr.com.
So we spend a third of our lives sleeping. Shouldn't we try to get the best sleep possible? That's why Denver Mattress is all about that sleep life. And during the 4-day super sale, the more you buy, the more you save. Save $100 on every $1,000 you spend. Take up to $150 off our Doctor's Choice hybrid lineup. Check out the Summit Queen, now only $299.99. Plus, get 48 months no interest financing and free shipping. Improve your sleep life one night at a time. Only at Denver Mattress, the easiest way to get the right mattress.
If you have a crack like this, well, you have a problem. Today I'm learning how a cracked wall might mean your foundation is sinking.
It always points towards the area where it's sinking. For example, this corner here, we're down almost a full inch of drop.
Right, so that's going down and that's causing the crack.
Correct. And then this door, they don't even use that door anymore. It cannot open.
Schedule a free inspection with Foundation Recovery Systems, a groundworks company.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. Finally this morning, the Kansas legislature takes a look at sports betting in Kansas. Some lawmakers believe state revenue numbers are not as high as they could be.
Yeah, right now Kansas receives only about 6% of all sports betting revenue in Kansas. It's one of the worst rates in the whole country. Only Arizona and Michigan have a lower rate. Well, the money outside of that 6% goes to casinos and sports betting companies. Now, in the original sports gaming law passed back in 2022, the state was supposed to receive 10% of all sports betting revenue. However, a provision in the law has allowed some companies to avoid taxes, resulting in less money for the state. Lawmakers have expressed interest in changing the current sports betting laws to allow the state to get a larger cut of that revenue.
Last year, Kansas earned $17 million in revenue from sports wagering. And we spoke with a Kansas representative who tells us the legislature is working to increase that number.
There were some concerns over the amount of money the state actually gets, and as far as actual hard revenue that we get from this segment of the betting. The whole topic is talk about the finances of it and where that money's at and where the money goes, and is there a better path. So, and that's the whole synopsis of why we're meeting today.
So far, most of that money has been collected from sports betting here in Kansas. It's gone towards a state fund that aims to attract professional sports teams to the Sunflower State. And we're back now with Professor Michael Smith. Now, Professor, could we see this lawmakers taking action on this? So what are your thoughts on that next year, perhaps?
On the sports betting piece? I think they likely will. The state take on that has been very disappointing. Sports betting is extremely lucrative. It's extremely popular and profitable. And states like Pennsylvania and New York collect many, many times the percentage of that revenue as Kansas does. As you mentioned, Kansas is one of the lowest, not just for percentage, but for revenue collected. Also, it's now legal in Missouri, so you have a neighboring state kind of moving in on that shares a metro with Kansas. And it's just been a real disappointment in terms of revenue generation. So should it continue to be managed by for-profit companies? Should the Kansas Lottery be involved? And what about that percentage? There are a lot of different questions that could be looked at in terms of getting that revenue up.
And Michael, a little bit of context too about how we got to this point where Kansas is now making less than so many other states when it comes to sports betting.
Well, again, a lot of it is that percentage piece. It's certainly popular in Kansas. In fact, while Missouri is still working on rolling out sports betting, everybody in the Kansas City area has to go to Kansas to do it. So there's no shortage of market. It is the percentage that's being collected that is so low. And there's another piece that's interesting, which has to do with the sports betting companies being able to offer free bets and cover their losses. And that has caused a dip too. Now, the sports betting companies will tell you that's temporary, because once they get established, that will go away and the state will collect more money. But it's been a few years now and the collections are still on the low side.
All right, and some of that money tucked away to attract pro sports teams like the Chiefs or Royals. Of course, not much in that fund right now, as we spoke about, of course. So this would also be in addition to that hearty Star Bonds offer that the state is offering either team. Could we see the Chiefs or Royals cross over, Michael? Fill us in on what's happening right now.
Well, there are a couple of things happening. One is that the Royals actually have an option on some land that appears to be the old Sprint campus in Overland Park, which is very underused since Sprint merged with T-Mobile, and it is near major freeways. So that's kind of an indication that the Royals are serious about possibly moving. Another development is that the people of Jackson County, Missouri, are voting on whether or not to recall the county executive, who is opposed to some of the packages that would have funded new stadiums in Missouri. Some of the money behind the recall is coming from advocates for more generous packages, and it's possible that if the recall passes, it will embolden Missouri's efforts to try to get the teams to stay.
Why do you feel it's taken this long, though? Both offers are on the table. I mean, what are the teams waiting for?
I think, first of all, the amount of money. We could get into billions by the time all is said and done with all the related expenses. These modern day sports facilities are staggeringly expensive. Football stadiums more so because they seat more people. And remember, this is a venue that unless you find other things to do like concerts, it sits empty most of the year. It's only fully occupied for a few days a year. And it costs a staggering amount of money. There are all kinds of zoning issues. There's likely to be eminent domain. There's a lot of coordination. I think the Royals lost the last vote in Missouri because of lack of coordination. They were still changing their plans after early voting had started. People in Jackson County didn't even know what they were voting on. So it's been a bit of a comedy of errors.
Right. And imagine such a big win for either state if they were able to keep the Chiefs or Royals on the Missouri side or bring them over here to Kansas. So heading into an election year, it would be a big thing for lawmakers, I would think.
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of things like putting food on the table, this is not going to do it for most Kansans or Missourians. But everybody loves sports. We love the Royals and the Chiefs, and it's a proven vote getter.
All right, Michael, thank you so much. And that was your look inside Kansas politics. If you want to keep up to date on all things Kansas politics, then follow us on social media. Follow us on X at InKSPolitics and on Facebook. Just search Inside Kansas Politics.
We also will post the full video on YouTube. Just search KSNT News and check out Inside Kansas Politics on KSNT.com for past episodes. And if you have a story that you think we should cover, let us know. You can email us at ikp@ksnt.com.
We'll see you right here, same time, same place. Have a good day.